You know this story. The trickster god, the shapeshifter, the father of monsters, the one who caused Baldur's death, the one who is bound beneath the earth with serpent venom dripping on his face until Ragnarok, the villain of Asgard. Loki, the god who betrayed everyone, the chaos agent, the Marvel villain, the name that has meant treachery and disruption in the Norse tradition for 1,000 years. You know it like this. Loki is the son of a giant, adopted into Asgard. He causes problems. He is cunning but untrustworthy. He engineers the death of Balder, the most beloved of the gods, by tricking the blind god Hodor into throwing a mistletoe dart. He refuses to weep for Balder, and so Balder cannot return from hell. He is captured, bound beneath the earth, and left there in agony until Ragnarok, when he breaks free and leads the forces of chaos against the gods. The trickster, the betrayer, the agent of the apocalypse. Now let me tell you what the original Norse sources, the Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, the Lokasenna, actually show about Loki when you read them as a complete picture rather than cherry-picking his worst moments. He was not the villain of Asgard. He was the only god who consistently told the truth about what the other gods actually were. The version of Loki most people know comes primarily from Snorri Sturluson's Prose Edda, a 13th-century Icelandic text written by a Christian scholar attempting to systematize Norse mythology. Snorri's work is invaluable. It is also written from a specific perspective, someone who saw Norse mythology as a collection of old stories, rather than a living tradition, and who organized those stories in a way that emphasized moral clarity. The older sources, the Poetic Edda, the skaldic poetry, the fragments of actual Norse religious tradition, present a considerably more complicated Loki. In these sources, Loki is Odin's blood brother. They swore an oath together, they traveled together, they faced crises together. Odin, who sacrificed his eye for wisdom, who hung himself on the world tree for 9 days to obtain the runes, who is the most strategically complex deity in the Norse pantheon, chose Loki as his companion for thousands of years. Think about that. The wisest god in Asgard kept the trickster close. Not because he was fooled, not because he had no choice, because Loki was useful, because Loki saw things clearly, because the god who valued truth above all else, who hung on the world tree to obtain knowledge, recognized something in Loki that the other gods refused to acknowledge. Before the myths about his betrayals before Balder, before the binding, there is a much longer record of what Loki actually contributed to Asgard. He helped build Asgard's walls. He retrieved Thor's hammer Mjolnir when it was stolen by the giant Thrym. He obtained the greatest treasures of the gods: Odin's spear Gungnir, Thor's hammer, Freyr's golden boar, Sif's golden hair. Through his cunning, he saved the gods from situations they had gotten themselves into through their own pride, greed, and poor judgment. Time and time again in the myths, the gods create a problem through their own failure, their arrogance, their broken promises, their reckless behavior, and Loki is the one who fixes it. The builder who contracted to build Asgard's walls demanded the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freya as payment. The gods had agreed to these terms without thinking through whether they could fulfill them. When it became clear they could not, they demanded Loki solve it. He solved it. He saved them. He did this repeatedly. He cleaned up messes the gods made through their own moral failures, and was thanked by being called untrustworthy. The scholar John Lindow, one of the foremost scholars of Norse mythology, documented that in the older sources, Loki's relationship with the Aesir gods is fundamentally that of a problem solver who uses methods the other gods find distasteful. He lies, he shapeshifts, he uses cunning rather than strength in a warrior culture that valued direct force. This made him permanently suspect. The Lokasenna is one of the most remarkable poems in the Poetic Edda. It is the scene of Loki's final confrontation with the gods, and it is not what the villain narrative would lead you to expect. At a feast of the gods, Loki arrives uninvited after having been excluded. He demands a seat. He is given one because Odin invokes their blood oath. And then Loki goes through the entire hall and accuses every god present of their actual crimes and failures. He tells Odin he has given victory in battle to the unworthy true. He accuses Frigg of taking lovers while Odin was absent. The sources support this. He accuses Tyr of cowardice. Tyr has no counter-argument. He accuses Freya of having slept with every god in the hall. The god's response is not denial, it is fury. Here is the crucial thing about the Lokasenna. The gods do not refute Loki's accusations. They tell him to be quiet. Not, you are lying, not, that is not true, not, you are misrepresenting what happened. You are saying true things that we do not want said. Stop. The trickster who tells the truth is more dangerous than any enemy, because you cannot fight the truth with strength. Baldr's death is the hinge point of Norse mythology, the moment after which everything moves toward Ragnarok, and it is the act for which Loki is most condemned. Baldr, Odin's son, beloved of all the gods, began having dreams of his own death. Frigg, his mother, traveled across all the 9 worlds and extracted oaths from every being and every object that they would not harm Baldr. She overlooked only mistletoe, thinking it too small and young to matter. The gods began the game of throwing things at Baldr and watching them bounce off harmlessly. It became a sport. Loki, in disguise, learned from Frigg about the mistletoe. He made a dart from it. He gave it to the blind god Hodr and guided his throw. Baldr died. The standard reading: Loki is evil. He killed the beloved god out of jealousy and malice. But look at the complete myth. Look at what Odin did before Baldr died. Odin rode to Hel, the realm of the dead, before Baldr's death and consulted a dead seeress. He asked specifically about Baldr's fate. He knew Baldr was going to die. He knew it before it happened. The scholar Ursula Dronk and others have noted that the entire Baldr mythology points to something the tradition tries to obscure. Baldr's death was not an accident caused by a villain. It was a necessary cosmic event. Baldr had to go to Hel. His return after Ragnarok is part of the cycle of renewal that the Norse cosmology depends on. Loki did not derail the plan. Loki may have been the plan. After Baldr's death, Loki was captured and bound beneath the earth. A serpent was placed above him, dripping venom onto his face. His wife Seijen holds a bowl to catch the venom, but when she must empty it, the drops fall and Loki's writhing causes earthquakes. This image, Loki bound, in agony, tended by his faithful wife, is one of the most striking in all of Norse mythology. But notice what it parallels. Odin hung on the world tree for 9 days, pierced by his own spear, in agony, to obtain wisdom. He was bound voluntarily and suffered willingly to gain what he needed. Loki is bound involuntarily. He suffers not to gain wisdom but as punishment. He is the mirror image of Odin, the god who valued truth, bound beneath the earth in a cave. The god who sought wisdom through suffering, giving Loki the same suffering but calling it punishment rather than transformation. The scholar Georges Dumézil observed that Loki and Odin are structurally paired throughout the mythology. They are not opposites. They are 2 aspects of the same divine function, the pursuit of knowledge and truth by transgressive means. The story of Loki has been told for 1,000 years as the story of the agent of chaos, the untrustworthy god, the villain whose lies brought Ragnarok. The actual sources tell a different story. A god who cleaned up the messes of gods who prided themselves on their virtue, who used cunning where others used force, who at the final feast looked around a hall full of gods who had done terrible things and said them plainly while they demanded his silence. Who was bound beneath the earth not for lying but for telling the truth that the institution of Asgard could not survive being told. There is a reason this resonates so deeply right now. We live in a world full of Lokis, people who solve problems others create and are thanked with suspicion, who see clearly what everyone else is pretending not to see, who finally say it plainly not to cause chaos, but because the pretense has become unbearable. who are then punished not for being wrong but for being inconveniently right. Loki is bound beneath the earth until Ragnarok, and when Ragnarok comes, when everything burns and everything ends, he is free. And from the ashes of what burns, the myth says, a new world rises. He was not the god who broke Asgard. He was the truth that Asgard could not contain, and the world that could not contain the truth burned. Script by Grey Wall Stories. Every wall holds a story. Some walls were built to keep the truth out.